It's time to end the Bachelor and Bachelorette franchise. I'm gonna be looking a lot at my computer. I am a fan of reality TV and dating shows. As much as I love a high quality TV show, I love mess. I will no longer be a part of Bachelor Nation. I personally believe that the Bachelor and Bachelorette franchise is beyond repair because of the racism and how outdated it is, and I think that it is time to end and cancel the entire franchise. Let's start with this past season. Coming from a show who has continuously not included Latino, Black, Asian, and Indigenous people, and just any non-white person on that show, who has Instagram accounts that literally talk about how non-white contestants get less screen time. They got called out last year and they said that they were going to do better. We were promised by the producers and the showrunners that this season would be a season of diversity and inclusivity. All of my sources and everything that I speak on will be linked down below. We know we have a responsibility to make sure the love stories we're seeing on screen are representative of the world we live in, and we are proudly in service to our audience, said ABC Entertainment President Carrie Burke in a statement. This is just the beginning, and we will continue to take action with regard to diversity issues on this franchise. So instead of that, we got the first Black Bachelor ending up with a racist white woman. We were race baited and lied to, and I'm not really going to go super in depth in race baiting and how we were told that there's going to be diversity and inclusivity and was not given that. A YouTuber, Khadijah, made a video on this in regards to Bridgerton and how they race baited us, and I think that's like a really good video that you should check out. That's the same that they did here in my opinion, and that video just explains it really, really well. All of this, everything that has happened with this past season boils down to the fact that racism is built within the show, and Black and Asian and Indigenous and Latino and any non-white people that are coming on the show will never truly be represented and accepted into the Bachelor and Bachelorette franchise. The Bachelor is filtered through an upper middle class, predominantly white lens, and it doubles down to the contestants and the leads on the show. Even if you only watched one season of The Bachelor prior to this season, you know that majority of the contestants on the show are white. The lead is always white with like 2 or 3 exceptions. And even if we do have a Black contestant or an Asian contestant or a Latino contestant or an Indigenous contestant, they're gone by the first 3 episodes tops. Now, one of the main problems with that is that producers deliberately put racist and problematic people into the seasons where we are actually getting Black leads. For example, on Rachel Lindsay's season, Lee Garrett was a known racist. I'm gonna put up some pictures of what he had tweeted beforehand. My biggest issue is because whenever a cast member like Lee Garrett has come out to be racist or homophobic or transphobic or xenophobic, literally any phobic, the producers will never take accountability for it. They will always say, we didn't know. So why are regular people being able to find out this information while you as a producer supposedly vetting the people not able to find that out? And why are you deliberately putting those people on the show? You probably knew and just didn't think it was a big deal. And that is a problem. That shouldn't be allowed. And if you didn't know, you should have known, and you should do better vetting so that you're not putting people in danger, putting them in close proximity with the racist person. The situation with the racist contestant is always bad. But this past season of The Bachelor was that, but on another level. A little bit of information about Matt's season before we get into all of the controversy. On the first night of Matt's season, Chris and Matt were having a conversation, and Matt said this.
The other thing I wanted to talk to you about was pressure that I put on myself just being the first Black Bachelor. You know, it's like people want you to end up with a certain type of person. Yeah. And I get that.
What does that mean?
So my mom is white and my dad's Black, and I experienced what it was like to be a product of an interracial marriage. And it's tough because you've got people who have certain views, old school views on what a relationship and what love looks like. And you've got people who are cheering for you to find love, and then you've got people who are cheering for you to end up with a specific person of a specific race. That's something that kept me up at night.
Now, as a Black woman, I personally took that as, I'm not choosing the Black woman. You're not getting the Black love story that you've been waiting for. That's not happening. That's what I took from that. Matt has since cleared that up and stated that that's not what he was trying to say. But honestly, was I wrong? After that, we're 15 minutes into the episode. I was like, okay, low expectations for the season already. And then at the end of the episode, we get a teaser clip for the whole season, and this was included.
I do acknowledge color in every sense. At the end of the day, like, love is love. It doesn't matter what it looks like.
Now, just the wording of that clip makes me uncomfortable, but that's not what we're going to get into. What we're going to get into is the fact that that's a conversation between Matt and Rachel during Fantasy Suite Week that was never actually aired because of all the controversy around Rachel and her whole being on the show. If you don't know the whole controversy and the situation, search it up for all the details, but I'm basically going to just sum up everything in like a short, concise way. The girl that Matt chooses, Rachel, his front runner, ended up being a racist. There are pictures of her at a South Antebellum themed plantation party. She has liked pictures of her friends in front of a Confederate flag, and is supposedly a Trump supporter, but Matt is also supposedly a Trump supporter, so take that with a grain of salt. Now, Chris Harrison, in an interview with Rachel Lindsay, defended Rachel and was subsequently basically fired from the show. Now, they said that it was just for like a time period, but it's looking like it's going to be a permanent firing. Rachel and Chris have since apologized, and Matt has made a statement, which will all be linked down below along with the interview. Now, this whole situation further proved my point. He ended up falling in love with a racist woman, and that is not okay. And the way that the franchise handled this situation was unacceptable. But I think the biggest cause of this whole situation, this whole problem, is the choice of Matt James as the Bachelor. Rachel Lindsay tweeted, and it was announced that Matt James was the Bachelor, and I think that we need to bring this back. Congrats to Matt James. I'm happy to see that a black man was cast after 18 years and 40 seasons. I believe it is a step into the right direction. I would be remiss to not point out that based on the current climate, it feels like a knee-jerk reaction and a result of societal pressure. This announcement, without any further commitments regarding diversity, sweepingly brushes deeper issues under the rug. Until we see action to address the systemic racism within the franchise, the casting news today is equivalent to the trend of posting a black box on your social media account without other steps taken to dismantle the systems of injustice. I look forward to hearing more about the additional efforts the franchise plans to make towards change. At the time that Rachel tweeted this, she received a lot of backlash and just a lot more people attacking another black woman. But I am here to say that Rachel was 100% correct. The producers and showrunners put no thought into making Matt the Bachelor. They made no changes within the system of the show to make it anti-racist, and basically just threw a black person in front to make it seem like they were making change. My biggest issue with this whole Rachel situation is the way that the showrunners and producers handled it, and that they never addressed it within the season and while the season was airing. They continued to air out the episodes like everything was normal and like nothing happened. At the second episode of the season, majority of Bachelor Nation knew of Rachel's past, and I feel like they could have brought in something. They could have paused the show then and talked about it. I feel like it honestly could have ended the show right then. That season didn't need to air. We were forced to watch a black man fall in love with a racist woman while we knew what was going to happen, and he didn't. And it was very uncomfortable, and it was very just harmful to me. I also think the addressing of the situation through the After the Final Rose was a terrible, terrible way to do it. I think it put Matt in a very awkward position. I'm sure the producers and people knew that things were probably going to go wrong, and they just didn't do anything. Rachel's a very fake person. Her apology was fake to me. Her on the show, on the After the Final Rose, was very, very fake. I'm saying words but actually saying nothing, which Rachel is an expert at, and she continued to do so. Rachel, honestly, to me, just had a fetishization for black men, because she's like, you know, I only got on the show because I knew you were the Bachelor, and she's trying so hard to still stay with Matt. When for me, it's like, why are you trying so hard for a man that doesn't want you? Especially as you have been shown as being racist. And I don't think that she was honest and sincere in her apologies. I think she just wanted to stay with him, and because she's so in love with him. Like, she literally said in the After the Final Rose, she didn't see anything wrong with it. And I think also putting a racist contestant in a season with the most diversity, inclusivity, and more black contestants is putting those people in danger, putting their safety at risk. Emotionally and mentally are also in danger, because now Matt has literally fall in love with a racist woman. The mental and emotional toll that will take on Matt, I don't think anyone is really going to truly understand except for him. And for the producers to continue to make him stay in that relationship without knowing anything was just careless. It was disrespectful, and it shouldn't have happened. I think that Matt was a terrible bachelor. I just really didn't enjoy him. He was a boring person. It was obvious the girls that he did not have a connection with, and the girls that he did have a connection with, could obviously see he did not want to be with that person. Like, he was like, let me send you home. And his thanks for sharing was so annoying. And I think it was also obvious that he was never actually going to propose to anyone and never actually going to be in a committed relationship, because if all you can say to someone saying I love you is thanks for sharing, child, you are not in an emotional and mental state to be in a marriage or proposal or engagement. It's not gonna happen. I'm gonna link down below an article about how Matt was just a terrible bachelor, and I think that video just like perfectly sums up everything and says it in the best way, just like everyone else on Twitter. Matt needs to go to therapy. He has his own issues that he's obviously dealing with, and this show literally just added more onto them. I think that he could possibly find love after therapy. Now let's talk about Chris Harrison. For him to sit there and talk to a black woman like that is completely disgusting to me. He knows Rachel Lindsay personally. He saw what she had to deal with on her season with the amount of racism that she had to deal with, and he's still talking to her like that? No. We're not doing that. We're not doing that. I noticed that Chris and Rachel were like actually close. Like, he always called her Rach and was also just like always really familiar with her. And even in the finale, when he had to tell her that wasn't coming on the date, and she like genuinely looked happy in like a friendly way to see Chris when she opened the door, it seems like they had some sort of a friendship that we possibly just didn't get to see on the show. I think in my opinion, Chris saw himself as just defending a friend and trying to be like a good friend in this. I also think he's possibly defending himself because I have a feeling Chris has a racist past that is just waiting to come out, but I digress. For his replacement for the After the Final Rose is Emmanuel Ako. I did not like him. I did not like it one bit because they made a black man play devil's advocate, and it was pissing me off. A lot of white Bachelor Nation would be playing that same angle, and for him to like feed into that was really making me mad, because it was very harmful for him to be saying those things and be asking those types of questions, because then it's gonna make people think, oh, Matt actually was in the wrong, because yes, it was 3 years ago, and yes, this is this, and yes, this is that, and that's like, why are you putting a black man to do that? Obviously, Chris would not be asking those types of questions, but I think he also would be, and just be from a different perspective. On Chris's replacement for the next season, I'm not really sure how long he is replaced for the Bachelorette. I'm honestly happy with it. I'm excited for Tayshia and Caitlyn. I low-key wish that it was Tayshia and JoJo, because JoJo stepped in for Tayshia's season and I enjoyed her, and I hope that it is a permanent replacement and not just for a short term. I think it's a good thing and a good time for Chris to be going home and leaving. Bye. The other big reason that I think the Bachelor and Bachelorette franchise needs to be ended is because of how outdated it is. Going back to the first clip, my long-time criticism of the Bachelor franchise speaks to the heart of the show's design. It is a princess fantasy built around the idea of a woman finding fulfillment by landing the perfect man, filtered through an upper middle class, predominantly white lens. Diversity in The Bachelor should not only be a contestant's race, but also body type and sexuality and socioeconomic status. Now, I am a straight cis woman, and I do not want to speak over any LGBTQIA people who have been speaking on this, and if they have been speaking, please like comment them down below, because I want to lift their voices up. Why have we never had a gay bachelor? Why have we never had a bisexual bachelor, bachelorette? Like, why have we never had a bisexual contestant? And have we had that, and were they forced to not speak on that or be stripped from that? Like, that is just something I think, like, why hasn't that happened? I don't know if LGBTQIA people want to be represented in this franchise, and it's very, very understanding if they don't want to be, but if they do, why isn't that happening? Another issue that I have is also that there needs to be diversity not only in race but also in body type. I don't want just skinny people on that show. I want plus size people on that show. I want average and the middle sized people on that show. Like, it should just be skinny and white, plain and simple. Now, for socioeconomic status, I definitely think that there should be diversity within that kind of portion of the contestants that are on the show, but at the same time I don't think that that's actually possible because of the amount of money that contestants on the show have to spend to be on the show. But I do think having that would be very important because people on different socioeconomic statuses have different views on the world, have different experiences in life. Now the whole premise of The Bachelor and The Bachelorette as a whole is very, very problematic, and it's also an issue. Following the president set by Who Wants to Marry a Millionaire, this new show is built on the premise that women wanted to be married so badly that they were willing to go on TV to compete for the affections of a man they had never met and knew nothing about. This franchise revived the idea that grown adult women in this century still want to imagine themselves to be the 1900s princess. Jennifer L. Posner, the author of Reality Bites Back, tells me that women don't want or have any professional or personal goals, that we don't want or have any sexual fantasies, and that men get to make all of the decisions. The whole premise of the show was to further negative stereotypes of women. Now, Mike Leach, the creator, has also been accused of attacking his wife, so he himself does not have a really great reputation as well. I also think there's an unhealthy power dynamic within the show. One man or woman being in charge of 30 or less, people's emotions and like mental health and emotional health is very unhealthy, and it's harmful, and it's dangerous. Mentally and emotionally, that is not the right way to build a relationship. And it's not a good way for a woman to be thinking about herself or a man to be thinking about himself when they're letting one sole person decide everything about them. In shows like Love Island and Bachelor in Paradise, which I don't watch Bachelor in Paradise, we see the flip side of this where men get to control sometimes and the woman gets control sometimes. And I think that's like the best way to do it if you're going to do reality TV shows, is like not giving just one sole person all that control, but spreading it evenly. Because I think that's healthier. Obviously, coming on a reality TV dating show is not a healthy way to build a relationship, but I think it's a bit healthier for the control to be spread than for it to just be one person. Now, all in all, I think The Bachelor and The Bachelorette franchise is just beyond repair. The majority of Bachelor Nation does not want to watch a love story that is not white. Let's be honest, if Matt had chosen a black woman and the majority of his frontrunners were all black women, the viewers on the show would be very, very much lower. People would have tapped out by the beginning, and they would have had probably the worst season of the show. Because white America does not want to watch a black love story. There truly is not a space in the franchise for black love stories, for Asian love stories, for Latino love stories, for indigenous love stories. There is not a space for that. And we continuously see that even with when we have black leads. All of our past black leads have been in interracial relationships. They don't put people in the show that would willingly do that. They're never planning to. They're never planning to show that. This is not just the root of the franchise, it's also the root of America. We are never going to see a black love story on that show. We're never going to see an Asian love story on that show. We're never going to see an indigenous or Latino love story on that show. The premise of that show is unhealthy, and I personally believe that it is time to end the Bachelor and Bachelorette franchise. They've had a good run. It's been 20 plus years or so. And I think as a society, we have moved past the need for the Bachelor and Bachelorette. And that is what I have to say. I personally will no longer be watching the Bachelor and Bachelorette franchise. And I know that they're continuing the show and that Katie and Michelle are the next Bachelorettes. I'm super excited for them. They were two of my favorites from this season. I really am rooting for them and hoping that they find love. I hope that you guys enjoyed this video. I put a lot of work into this video. Please don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Please comment down below what you're thinking and check out more of my videos.